Hi everybody, this is Matthew Kenslow, and I'm the author of this book, Juggling the Issues Living with Asperger's Syndrome. What you've seen is my chapter 17, Olive Branch in a Soliloquy, and in this video I want to explain what do I mean by soliloquy, what is a soliloquy, why do I call it a soliloquy, and why is it one of the most horrible thing for any autistic. So, a soliloquy I learned in 12th grade, and I mentioned this in the beginning of the chapter. When we were reading Hamlet in Comp Lit 4 class, we learned about a soliloquy, and it's basically a monologue by the character of a play. And usually the character is in an alone environment, and he's speaking out his thoughts, and the only person or the only other people that could hear him or her are the audience members. The other characters don't know, and we get to know a bit more about his character, his innermost, thoughts and feelings and such, his heart and intent and everything. And so that's what I call what I frequently do for several years. And I put the word soliloquy to it several years ago, but if I think hard enough, I think I was doing soliloquies since probably elementary school. So, what do I mean by all of this? It's that a soliloquy for me is when something upsetting happened or occurred, or I'm frustrated about something, and my autistic brain just can't deal with it or all of it like at one time. It's very high pressure, high intense, and this could be academic wise, it could be social wise, but I start a soliloquy. When I do it, I just talk and talk and talk. The only bad thing is nobody is around, and every time I do a soliloquy, it's as if I'm answering a question, or I'm talking to somebody. Maybe somebody wants to console me or try and make me feel better, and I explain to that person what's been going on, or I'm talking like to a friend of mine, a teacher, principal, or parent or family member. Also, oftentimes it's I'm make-believing as if I'm answering an interview question on radio, podcasts, television, or whatnot, or maybe a YouTube interview, and maybe somebody asks me about this, and I'll just, go and start to talk. And why do I do it? It's for closure. Now, if you've been watching my recent videos, I talk a lot about closure and how important it is, and I'm not sure if I have time to thoroughly explain that, but basically it's, I'm sure you know what closure is, where you feel relaxed, like the maximum amount of relaxation out of stress in the world, and I don't attain that high of a closure, but I strive to get the best I can. So anyway, that's why I do it, and I have something to show you toward the end of the video about that. So back to the closure idea. If I carry out a soliloquy, it would help me a lot in closure because I'm talking things out, but not quite, because I'm not talking to anybody, and usually they last for hours and such. That's what soliloquies could do. They usually last for hours, and I'm usually like alone in my room, whether the house that I grew up, or the second house I grew up in, and like right here in this apartment where I'm living at now. I usually just stand in one spot, or what I'm doing now, walking back and forth, pacing back and forth. In fact, I have a couple of YouTube videos where I'm pacing back and forth, maybe faster than this, but basically, case in point, this is what we go through, and we go back and forth 100 times, a couple hundred times, depending on the individual. If you meet one person with Asperger's, you haven't met everybody with Asperger's or autism. Like, it's a spectrum, and I'm sure that a lot of us go through this or similar. People with autism, or at least most of us, we have to talk things out. We have to. It's for closure and such, and that's what I encourage. Don't bottle things up inside. So here's a couple of examples of why we have soliloquies, what propagates them, what instigates them, and it's usually because of social loneliness. Like, people with autism autism, we just can't, take that step forward. We have a repulsive block of nervousness, as I call it, and I refer to that in my upcoming trilogy and maybe in the book, but I call it the block of nervousness and such. And it's hard to start conversations, and oftentimes I had to wait for my friends to start the conversations. I mean, by high school, I had like hundreds of friends, but it's like I never spent time with any of them, or really spent time with any of them, or actually most of them. And basically, they would come, sometimes as hi, how are you? And other times it's maybe a little bit longer, but then that's it, and such. Okay, that's partly the biggest, instigator of soliloquies is usually when something mean happens by people that don't care to educate themselves about autism, autism awareness, autism acceptance. They don't bother to accept autism for who we are. They laugh, tease, mock, and at like how we look, how we sound, how we talk, how we go day to day. And since we do stand out, they think that that's an easy target and everything. And I have thousands of those experiences of people just looking at me the wrong way, people commenting, people chuckling, people giving me an angry face, people either drawing their kids closer or telling their kids basically to stay away from me and such, for just because of how I look and such. It's like we never met and we're like a distance away, and they just hate me and such, dislike me. And I mean, and this is common like around my area. Almost every time I go out of the apartment, like there's somebody in the neighborhood at least once every time at least that just they're like, what's wrong with you type, and they let me know that sometimes. And I could tell you more stories. I already have stories on YouTube, like what happened in August of 2017. I have like 2 or 3 big videos about what happened, like August 18th to the 19th, 2017, August 21st, 2017, and so on and so forth. I've, I have those videos if you're interested, and you have like over an hour or two to watch those videos. But that kind of, it almost simulates a soliloquy, but the difference is I was talking to a camera and I put it on YouTube, but that's like you're actually almost watching a soliloquy right there. But usually when things like this happens, it always revives things that happen since kindergarten to the present day. So if you haven't been following my YouTube videos or my book, I said this like scores of times probably, is my story. And I was I was becoming prone or susceptible to being teased and such since kindergarten. I mean, in kindergarten, there's a couple of classmates, and they said like, go away Matthew, you're not our friend, and another classmate at another time said you're not playing with us, and such. And it all started from kindergarten. That was 1 score ago, 20 years ago. I was in kindergarten. And then as time went on, I had a handball chucked at my face, I've been called names, I've been so many things just for who I am. So yeah, these happened like inside school, but as I got older, at least maybe when I was a little younger, there were people outside, like out in the community or wherever we went, that just, they always looked at me, they always stared at me, that kind of perturbed me or disturbed me. And sometimes it was obvious that they were just discriminate against me based on like who I am, how I look, and everything, and they made me know that. My point is even outside of school, there would be people who just chose to discriminate against me and other people with autism. And even in high school, I would I think I probably said this in a YouTube video before, but even in high school, I mean, there would be, yeah, I did say this, there would be a parent and a child. I would be walking to the high school, the elementary school was behind me, and I would look down the street, I'd see the parent look my direction and pull their child closer to them. And I also had a disturbing encounter at Target in January this year, and I'm not sure if I said this in a YouTube video either, I might have, but there's a father, and I overheard something, and I look up, and this father and his small child were looking at me, and the father had one of the most hideous, angry face at me, I mean, I'm not calling him hideous, I'm just calling the countenance disturbing to me. It's like, I am one of many people here, why am I the target? And why did you tell your child, like, something to the effect, like, don't communicate to me or ask questions or something, and everything? Just because of who I am and how I look and all that. And I try not to, like, as time went on, I try not to let these things bother me, but for autism, it's impossible. Colloquially, it's impossible and such, and that's why I'm fighting hard to educate like 7.8 billion people in this generation and everybody in the next generation, and through my book, like what we go through often, and they never leave. And when I think about them, you know, when I think about, you know, times like this in the past, like kindergarten and such, it evokes everything in my past, or almost everything in my past, and that starts or instigates a soliloquy. And I do admit, even if the person didn't mean to be mean, or I misconstrued, you know, if I misconstrued them for whatever, by whatever means, then that might instigate like a soliloquy. But what I think in the soliloquy is true events that have happened in the past, but it was instigated because of something that wasn't meant to be mean. So I'll try to clarify that. I've said in a previous video, the August 19th, 2020 video that I published that date, I, in my book, talk about, you know, the chapter title, an olive branch and a soliloquy. Well, it was longer than that. In fact, a lot of my chapters were longer than it was, or at least a few of them. And the publisher, editor, when they came back to me in like May of 2019, they said we cut down your chapters because some of them were way too long. And well, I beg to differ, but you know, they're more experienced than I. So that chapter 17, it was originally called Misconstruing an Olive Branch, Instigating a Soliloquy. So an olive branch is a sign of peace, and like if you extend an olive branch, that's a sign of peace. And so misconstruing means misinterpreting, and sometimes we misinterpret what was meant to, you know, be friendly, peaceful, into, you know, like a knife in the heart or a stab in the back. And comma, instigate a soliloquy. Well, instigate basically means initiate something that's typically unwanted, a soliloquy, but they shorten it to an olive branch and a soliloquy. So that's the story behind the title. And basically my point is that sometimes we misinterpret things that could bring about, you know, hours of just talking and talking and talking. And sometimes, like, when we misconstrue it, sometimes it was meant to be mean, but we're not sure entirely. Maybe they were trying to be mean, but not as much as we took it. And maybe, like, sometimes it's just a misunderstanding or misinterpretation. For example, there are lots of things I am, you know, positive that they just were extending hatred toward me and such. And then there are other times I just cannot be sure. And an example of that, I believe it was St. Patrick's Day 2019. I was just walking around the neighborhood, and I was, you know, I was like just down the street at 16th Street, and I was walking this way by Heller Park and such. I was walking down that way down the street, and I heard some insanely loud laughing, and this big white van, you know, was coming, and the passenger in the front, this like middle-aged looking man, was just laughing and laughing and laughing very loud. And as they were passing, and it was like quick, I thought I saw that he was looking toward my direction while laughing. So to an autistic, you could think, was he laughing at me? Because that has happened to me. I know it, because I've heard it, and I've talked about it in my book and others. But could I have misinterpreted that? Okay, that was an example. Another common example is that we misinterpret a lot of things. What's the word? Sarcasm. Okay, sarcasm. That's very common. Like, we can't really get sarcasm sometimes, and usually, you know, normal people, non-autistic people, they could, you know, say things that are really hurtful to each other, but they're not meaning to be hurtful. It's sarcasm, but we can't, you know, we don't know sometimes. And, you know, that's a, you know, whole long story. But my point, especially for this video, are soliloquies, and something like that would instigate a soliloquy. I really got, I guess, perturbed by it maybe when I was 15 or 16, or at least in the beginning stages, because I guess unbeknownst to me I was living like this all my life, or most of my life, because I remember having soliloquies in elementary school even. But by the time I got to the middle of high school, you know, I was just so frustrated socially, like how I was treated, and also how I just can't socialize, and I just felt insanely lonesome and everything. And I would just, you know, pretend to be talking to one of my friends from school. Sometimes they're friends from school, sometimes they're people that work at the school, or wherever, or whoever, and I just talk and talk, and I look at the clock and I find out I've been talking for a half hour, I've been talking for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, and I'm not joking. So what I'm telling you now is the truth. Soliloquies can last 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. I'm not saying that I got over it, because one of my big long soliloquies was just 2 nights ago. About a couple of nights ago, around, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, while I'm trying to do homework and such. I mean, yeah, sometimes soliloquies are oftentimes are the reasons why homework and reading take a long time. And just the other month, I had another late night soliloquy that lasted, and I'm not joking, like 3 or 4 hours. I even made a note of that somewhere. But what happened like last month, I believe it was last month, it just started. It was like 1 and it lasted literally till 4, and I was standing like right where I was, and I would stand, I would pace, I would stand, and I would get everything out. And usually, well, backtracking to like 2014, 2014 was like worst year. I mean, I could do that for almost every year. 2014, 2017, the latter half of 2018, the first half of 2019, the latter half of 2019, but for a different reason. I mean, I have a lot of, you know, worse, you know, sections or quantities of time that I have, but that goes beyond this video. This video would like take hours, but I'm not going to do that. But anyway, as time went on, like in 2014, I started to, you know, notice that a lot of people were staring at me in a peculiar way, and some people were mean and such, and about, you know, every single time I found myself saying the same soliloquy over and over again. So just to say, for soliloquies, it's oftentimes where you say that you get out, or vent, or rant, or whatever the word that you want to use. You say everything you want to say, but that doesn't mean you have like complete closure, and it could always come back. So like in 2014, like after something mean has happened, that night I usually had a soliloquy that lasted a couple of hours, or maybe 1 hour, or a few hours, and I talk things out, and it's as if I'm describing to a friend or somebody of what happened to me in the past. Like kindergarten, those two classmates said this, that classmate said that. A friend of mine lied about me, and the teacher took her word over my true word. I was chucked in the face by a handball. I was called this, I was called that. And it's like it never leaves me, and I say that over and over again, almost like every soliloquy, time and time again, and there's nothing I could do about it. I believe I made such a point in my book, and I sure hope and pray that I'm making such a point in this video. And not just to, you know, unload things about me. That's totally the antithesis of my main goal. My main goal is, you know, to spread awareness for every one of us, like everybody, and hopefully they'll get encouraged to, you know, talk things out and release things. You don't have to like start a YouTube channel or anything like that, but, you know, just release things. If you do start a YouTube channel, be responsible, don't gossip, meaning do not like mention names or addresses or anything. That, I mean, some of us do have like that fleshly, you know, want to, you know, have something bad happen to that person, but, you know, that's not me, and I sure hope that's not everybody else. So just do it responsibly if you go on social media and just say like what happened. And my hope personally is that the person that did it would would somehow watch it one of these days, realize it's them, and privately come and apologize. And regardless, I forgive them. Regardless, I just want them to have understanding and awareness, the people that did it. And for other people who have family members who are autistic, for them to have such awareness and acceptance. Maybe, when your son or daughter or somebody with autism, comes home, or if it's a friend of yours and that person just doesn't want to talk to you, and when they come home they just like barricade themselves in the room and they won't come out. I mean, we need time to process and think. And sometimes, I'm not saying this for like every time, but usually something has happened earlier, maybe at school or wherever they were, and they just need to unwind and let go of things. So that's an explanation of that. So anyway, getting back on track, back in 2014, there would be quite a few things that happened, but there was, a few or a couple of major things that happened that would usually instigate a soliloquy that night. So, like, for instance, on March 22nd, 2014, I mentioned this in my book, when I say, like, March of 2014, I was walking down the street, and there's this person that just that looked at me. I mean, the entire story is in my book if you want more detail, or maybe I can make a video about that. If I make a video in the future, I'll try and link it in the card above. But I got the impression that she was concerned that I was going to hurt somebody, or I was a kidnapper. I was just walking down the street and such, and that night just felt so, I guess, pitiful and worthless inside, and just, I guess that made me think, like, what if I took action, like talked to her, or what if something happened and she came to me, and then I talk, how would I give an answer? That's basically like the start of a soliloquy. Maybe I would explain to her, like, I had this life, it's because I have autism and such, but I want to give back, I want to help people, I want to help people succeed, I want to mentor and motivate other people. I mean, I'm a Royal Rangers commander, I'm helping out boys from K through 12 achieve something in life. I'm going to elementary school at my expense to juggle for students and such. It's like people don't see what I could do, they just see the outside and choose to discriminate. I mean, for some people, I could win the Nobel Peace Prize and they'll still hate me and such, just because of how I look, because they don't take the time to educate themselves, number one, who I am, and that's just giving an example. I mean, it's not just me, but I want everybody, like if there's another autistic like somewhere in this world, I don't want them to go through what I'm going through, is what I'm saying. But sometimes I have to use my own examples or thought processes to make a point. I hope I'm making a point here. But basically that's what happened March 22nd, 2014. Fast forward to April 27th, 2014. Now, I don't believe I told this to anybody. I'm trying to think. I don't believe I told this to anybody, and I'm not going to right now. But something happened in on April 27th, 2014, with a few several teenagers on the way home, and one stared at me, and I heard a couple of disparaging remarks from another and such. But that's a long story, and that was like what, 45% on the way home. I mean, it was like 5 minutes, but I had to sit there in the car for a few minutes on the way back, just feeling so shaky inside and everything, because it's like no matter what, no matter where I go, no matter what I do, it's like people of all ages are just going to just despise me without taking the time to find out who I really am and the heart that I have inside and how much I want to help and give back to people. And so that night I had a soliloquy, and then like fast forward to June 2014, that's what I opened my chapter with, chapter 17. In June of 2014, I was going to the park, and those two teenagers just they disparagingly chuckled right as soon as I passed and such. And as I got further down the curvature of the park, I turned around very quickly because I was too intimidated to look at them for longer than a split second, and they were still staring at me. And I was walking all the way down Westminster, and I kept on looking over my shoulder like every second. Okay, not every second, but like every 5-10 seconds, because I wasn't sure they were following me. And then, but as soon as I heard the disparaging laughter from them at my expense, I I immediately like almost laughed inside myself, like saying, I knew this was going to happen, Matthew. You're just going to keep walking forward, not think about it. Don't, like, don't go back and confront them. And not like a mean confrontation, but I try not to let it bother me so hard. And that night I had a long soliloquy, and it was propagated because of what happened with those two teenagers that never met me and such. And those two teenagers, I mean, they didn't know what I do or what I memorized or how much I give back to others and such. I was coming back from the elementary school, not because I was juggling on this particular day, but I was either saying hi to a teacher or scheduling like one last visit to juggle. It was June 2014. Back then, school ended in June. But again, at the start of the soliloquy, I just thought about like what happened, and I thought, what if I had, I guess the courage to turn around and just peacefully, just tell them what they've done, how they made me feel, how this happens, all my life anyway, and such, and like, what would happen? What would they say? Would they even listen, give me a word in edgewise, or would they understand and apologize and such? But it's like I can't go back in time anyway, and like what if and such. So I like pretend as if I was responding to them, and then in my mind it brings back kindergarten and everything all the way down, and I'm like speaking this for like an hour or two at least, and it's like I'm not talking to anybody. I receive a little bit of closure, comfortable, where I'm comfortable enough to live, but I receive an amount of closure where I could go about daily activities, but not a maximum type of closure. And but at the end I always think, like, if I were to tell this to people, everything that I said in a soliloquy, I mean, I would have to take the same amount of time. So let's say that it took like an hour or 2 hours to, or maybe 3 hours usually to go through a soliloquy. Like, let's say that for like an example, and then it would take that same amount of time to actually tell that to even one person, and that just wears me out, just to think about that. And as time went on, still things happened. Like November 21st, 2014, there were two things that happened on the same day, and I think that Thanksgiving there was another thing that happened, and then those were some of the major things that happened to me in 2014, minus all the probably 100 like little tiny things that only lasted a split second and such. Like, not everything instigates a soliloquy, but a lot of the major things do. And it hasn't, as you know in this video, it hasn't started just in 2014, and it hasn't stopped in 2014, well, obviously. And I'm sure it persisted in 2015 and 16, and especially 2017, and I had a even more horrible time socially in 2017, which I divulged in a couple of videos that I already previously have, that I published in August. So now for you, like if you know somebody with autism, or you yourself have autism, I mean, again, my advice is to don't bottle it up, just release it and such. And that could be some of the first steps. But especially if you don't have autism but you see this in other people, maybe it's your cousin, your sibling, your son or daughter or a grandchild, and you see, like, after school they just go to their room and they won't come out, and they seem like sad or on edge, like on the way home, like if you pick them up or something, and they just don't talk and such, and they just don't want to hear anything. It could probably be, or the reason could probably be that something has happened in school, and that has happened often. Like when these things happen to me personally, it's like I don't want to say hi anyway, I just wanted to get in the house, bypass any conversation, go to my room. An example is that back in high school, I would be, teased by a couple of friends of mine, okay, friends slash acquaintances. I mean, and anyway, they would tease me at, the large percentage of time, and I mean, very much that was very hurtful, and they didn't know, what I felt because of them. They had no idea because, I was, this was also part of my fault. I mean, I'm just nervous. I'm autistic. I'm nervous to, confront them, and if I confront them, they'll probably tease me more because of that. And I remember, I was probably a junior when this happened, and, it was after school, and it was either, I believe it was Friday, or the Friday to a 3-day weekend. I think it was just an ordinary Friday. And I remember I was coming home, and I finally made it home, and it's like, I was feeling so horrible. I mean, after 15 minutes to walk home from the high school, and, of all days, and this usually happens when I come home, my mother and my grandfather, they're happy to see me, and like, hi, how was your day? But of all days, they were like, hello and everything, and they were like so happy to see me. It's like, you see me every day. It's like, you're so happy to see me. And then my grandpa started singing the It's Friday song that annoyed the world, or at least the country, back when it came out. And it's like, please, I need to get out of here. Like, and I just went to my room and such. But I was nice. I mean, I didn't do that. I tolerated it. I felt so fuzzy and funny, and like I was about to explode inside, but I did not want them to worry. I did not want to tell them what happened. I didn't want them to worry. I didn't want them to know that I was even bullied or teased in my life. I didn't want them to know, and such, and that's the detrimental part. And that's what sort of starts soliloquies and such. I just don't want certain people to worry, and such. But anyway, that was just an example. So if that happens with your family member, or maybe that family member or friend, like really was rambunctious, like get away from me type thing, or so, like really actually said that, or something, then you probably know why. Just give him or her however long he or she needs to process everything. That's my number one advice right there. And what they're going through when they're alone is probably what I define as a soliloquy. So basically, that's what, a soliloquy is. That's probably more than an introduction. That's explaining to you it. I really hope that this video helped. And now I have one more thing to, explain to you why I have to finish a soliloquy. And I shouldn't say why we have to finish what I call a soliloquy. When at the start of a soliloquy, the closure level is like down here. Okay, comfortably, like every day, 24/7, I'm comfortable. The closure level is up here. Like, I know that this happened in the past, but it happened a while ago, or a few weeks ago, or whatnot, and I'm just comfortable to do my schoolwork. I'm comfortable to do the work that I have to do, volunteer work, Royal Rangers, or whatnot. I'm comfortable here. It didn't make anything else go away, but I'm comfortable enough to do daily functions, basically. And then at the start of a soliloquy, which often happens for no reason, and I do want to, say this, when a soliloquy starts, I can't consciously start or stop it. I can't start a soliloquy. It happens. And once it happens, there's nothing I can do. And I have to play it out, because as soon as the soliloquy starts, the closure level comes from, peaceful, comfortable, well, this is peaceful, but comfortable, down here. And if I stop in the middle, like, or even in the beginning or middle, like, as I talk a soliloquy out, this closure goes up and up and up, and if I stop right there, somewhere, then that means the closure level gets stuck somewhere between down here and up there, and it gets stuck there, and I can't adequately function at that moment. Therefore, I have to go along with the soliloquy to get the closure level back up to comfortableness. And of course, the maximum closure would be like if I get an apology from somebody. But then again, there's hundreds of people that would need to apologize, and frankly, they probably forgot to, like the people that did something to me like a month ago in January, August 2017, all throughout 2014, and of course kindergarten. I could be sure that most people forgot, and with people with autism, we cannot forget and such. So part of my closure process is releasing things like this, and having the book published, and having a YouTube channel. And so I have to conclude however long that would take. And again, it usually takes a few hours. Now, that that analogy that I made, or whatever you call this, actually was invented by me, or whatever the verb should be, if not invented, just a couple of nights ago when I had that soliloquy. So soliloquies, to me personally, still starts today, to this day, like a couple of nights ago, and earlier, a month ago and such. I mean, it's inundating a lot. So anyway, that's my video. I hope, like, beyond anything, that you just take a message out of this, like you learn something, or you have like a message from this. So I hope that helps. You could ask me any questions if there's anything that I still need, if you still need clarification, or if I said something that was more like a cliffhanger or something, I didn't answer anything, please let me know. And if it's a type of question that I think would make a video, I'd answer it in a video, and I'll just send you the link when I reply to the comment. If you want to help and support the spread of autism awareness, all I humbly ask is that you just put all my my name, information, channel links, and the title of my book to every single newspaper and podcast personnel that and television as well. So I'm devoting my life to this, that, and middle school math and science teaching, and Royal Rangers. And I just want to be an encouragement more than anything else. I don't care about myself, I care about other people. So have a nice day.